At 4:17 on the morning of October 9, 1917, Corporal James Whitaker, 22 years old from Manchester, crouched in a shell hole filled with 2 feet of liquid mud near Passchendaele. Rain hammered the churned earth. Around him, 3 other British soldiers from the King's Liverpool Regiment watched a supply convoy bog down 300 yards behind their position. Wheels spun uselessly. Axles sank. The ammunition they desperately needed sat immobile in the Flanders mud while German artillery found its range. Someone shouted from the communication trench, "Send in the Mack Bulldogs!" Within 20 minutes, 2 blunt-nosed American trucks arrived, their chain drives grinding through terrain that had swallowed everything else. Solid rubber tires gripped where pneumatics failed. The 74 horsepower engines behind those distinctive coal-scuttle hoods didn't hesitate. British soldiers watched these machines haul ammunition, artillery shells, and wounded men through conditions that had stopped everything else. The Mack AC trucks didn't slow, and they just pushed through. Nobody at Mack's factory in Allentown, Pennsylvania, had predicted this. When Chief Engineer Edward Hewitt designed the AC model in 1916, he was solving American problems. Commercial haulers needed reliable trucks. The military needed vehicles that wouldn't break down on dirt roads. Hewitt worked from a simple principle. If you couldn't fix it with basic tools in a field, you'd designed it wrong. The AC emerged from that philosophy. 2 axles, chain drive, 4-cylinder engine. Hewitt positioned the radiator behind the engine and covered it with a blunt, tapered hood. This protected the radiator from damage and gave the truck its distinctive profile. The 471 cubic inch engine delivered 74 horsepower through a 3-speed transmission. The chassis used chrome-nickel steel, heat-treated for durability. Mack offered 3 sizes. The smallest carried 3.5 tons. The medium version handled 5.5 tons. The largest moved 7.5 tons across terrain that would snap the axles of lesser machines. 18 patents covered various aspects of the design. When the first ACs rolled off the assembly line in 1916, they went to logging operations, construction sites, and fire departments. Then, Britain went shopping for trucks. Spring 1917. The British Army's supply situation on the Western Front had degraded past critical. German submarines strangled Atlantic shipping. French roads disintegrated under military traffic. Existing British trucks couldn't handle the combination of mud, craters, and constant overloading. Someone in the British Procurement Office had heard about an American truck that loggers used in impossible terrain. The initial order specified 150 Mack AC trucks. British purchasing agents visited Allentown in March 1917, watched demonstration runs, and increased the order to 2,000 units. The first Mack ACs arrived in France painted in British khaki, assigned to supply convoys supporting operations around Ypres. British soldiers, officially called Tommies, had watched plenty of vehicles fail in Flanders. The region's water table sat just below the surface. Artillery bombardments destroyed natural drainage. When rain fell, the battlefield transformed into what soldiers called hell. Horses drowned in shell holes. Men drowned in shell holes. Equipment sank and disappeared. The Mack ACs didn't sink. If you want to see how these trucks transformed military logistics, hit that like button and subscribe. It helps us share more forgotten stories. Back to Flanders. The British soldiers who worked with the Mack trucks noticed specific details. The chain drive distributed power differently than shaft-driven vehicles. When one wheel hit resistance, the chain compensated. The truck kept moving. The heat-treated chassis flexed without braking when wheels dropped into craters. The 74 horsepower mattered less than how that power delivered to the wheels. British mechanics appreciated different aspects. The aluminum crankcase included inspection ports. You could diagnose problems without disassembling the entire engine. When something broke, you could fix it with standard tools. A corporal with mechanical aptitude could keep a Mack running with what he carried in his kit. The trucks hauled everything: artillery shells, wounded men, light tanks, searchlights, barbed wire, ammunition. The loads exceeded specifications regularly. A 7.5-ton truck routinely carried 10 tons, sometimes 12. The Mack ACs handled the abuse with mechanical indifference. The Bulldog nickname emerged from this performance. Some British soldiers claimed the blunt nose resembled a bulldog's face. That others said the trucks had a bulldog's tenacious grip on impossible tasks. The most detailed accounts place the nickname's origin with British engineers who tested the first ACs in April 1917. When a truck succeeded where others failed, they'd note bulldog determination in maintenance logs. By August 1917, soldiers were shouting, "Bring up the Bulldogs," when supply situations deteriorated. The term meant Mack trucks specifically. The Mack AC had earned a reputation that transcended capability. It became symbolic of not quitting. Britain ordered 2,000 Mack ACs during the war. When America entered the conflict in April 1917, the U.S. Army ordered 4,500. Mack delivered approximately 6,500 AC trucks to Allied forces between 1917 and 1918. Private Robert Hayes, a farm kid from Iowa, wrote home in November 1917 about riding in a Mack during a supply run near Verdun. He described sitting in the steel cab with no doors while rain poured through gaps in the canvas roof. The truck ahead had bogged down. Their Mack pulled it free, then continued through mud that reached the running boards. The driver, a corporal from New Jersey, never stopped cursing, but never stopped driving either. They delivered ammunition 12 miles from the starting point in 7 hours. Hayes noted that the pre-war route took civilian trucks 2 hours in good weather. The war ended November 11, 1918. The Mack AC's military service ended with the armistice, but its operational life continued. The trucks had proven that properly engineered commercial vehicles could survive military abuse. In 1919, the U.S. Army conducted a transcontinental convoy from Washington, D.C. to San Francisco. Several Mack ACs participated. A young lieutenant colonel named Dwight Eisenhower joined the convoy. The 3,200-mile journey took 62 days. Trucks broke down, roads disintegrated, bridges collapsed. The Mack ACs finished. Eisenhower's after-action report specifically mentioned their reliability. Decades later, as president, he'd referenced that convoy when pushing for the interstate highway system. Construction companies bought surplus Mack ACs after the war. Hoover Dam construction between 1931 and 1936 employed numerous AC models. The Golden Gate Bridge project also used ACs for heavy hauling. Mack officially adopted the Bulldog as its corporate symbol in 1922. The company had resisted initially, concerned that an informal nickname lacked dignity. Customer loyalty changed their minds. When your clients specifically request Bulldogs, you acknowledge the brand identity. In 1932, Alfred Fellows Massery, Mack's chief engineer, carved the first Bulldog hood ornament while recovering from surgery. That chrome Bulldog began appearing on Mack trucks soon after. Later, in 1979, Mack introduced a gold-plated version awarded exclusively to trucks, with all Mack powertrains. Chrome indicated mixed components. Gold meant pure Mack engineering. The AC model remained in production until 1938. Total production reached 40,299 units. Many ACs built in the 1920s stayed in service through the 1950s. Some worked into the 1960s. These weren't museum pieces. They hauled freight, moved equipment, and earned their keep decades after newer designs had been scrapped. A restored Mack AC resides in the Mack Trucks Historical Museum in Allentown, Pennsylvania. The museum sits near where Edward Hewitt designed the original, about 3 miles from where workers assembled the trucks that British soldiers called bulldogs, in the worst conditions imaginable. That phrase, "built like a Mack truck," entered American English in the 1920s. It described anything constructed to withstand punishment. The phrase persists because the trucks that inspired it actually did what they were built to do. When everything else stopped, they kept moving. When roads disappeared, they made their own. When the load exceeded the specification, they hauled it anyway. Every Mack truck built since 1932 carries that bulldog hood ornament. The symbol references a nickname given by exhausted soldiers in Belgian mud to American machines that wouldn't quit. It's a reminder that sometimes the most important engineering specification is the one that can't be measured in horsepower or payload capacity. The specification that determines whether something works when working matters most. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from.